Hello class, for today, I'm going to go over more details in the geometric explicit formula and how to make the formula from different kinds of scenarios because we haven't only been doing with like one particular way. First of all, everyone should be comfortable with doing these types of questions in which you see right here. So I'm going to give you three examples. So I'm going to give you a question that looks like this, where simply the context is that they're just giving you a list of numbers. So the second one is that they're giving you the very first term in the common ratio, and they're asking you to find the ace of 10, which is fairly simple if you know the explicit formula. The third one is that I do not give you the first term, and the common ratio is given, so then how are we going to do from that? Later on you'll be given like the third term and the 10th term, like these two, and then I'm going to ask you to solve for the explicit formula and then find the designated term. The Those will be the last case scenario, but first, for now, I'm going to give you a question that's related to these guys. Let's start from the very beginning. So to find the common ratio and then find the explicit formula. First of all, everybody, you guys should go back to your notes and write down your explicit formula if you don't have this already written down. Your explicit formula for geometric sequences should always be a sub n is equal to a sub 1 times the common ratio r raised to the power of n minus 1. This should be the explicit formula no matter what. That's the case. Now, I'm talking about the common ratio here. To find the common ratio, you can simply find any two subsequent terms in the sequence, and then you can just divide the right-hand side and the the left-hand side. 20 divided by 4 is 5, so my common ratio, you would simply say it's a 5. Using the explicit formula will be the 11th term of the sequence. So what would that mean is that I am going to use my explicit formula and say I'm trying to look for the ace of 11, which would equal to the very first term in the sequence is negative 4, as given to us above, times the common ratio of 5, which we found as the answer from the previous question, raised to the power of 11 minus 10. So that would mean I'm taking the negative 4 and multiplying by essentially 5 to the 10th power. Now, I strongly recommend you to use a calculator for this. Your final answer then turns out to be negative 39062500, approximately 39 million, but it's a negative number. Notice that because I'm multiplying by negative number, it alternates. So the first and the third term, they have a negative sign. The second and the fourth term does not have a negative symbol. Take a look at the second question and pause the video and please solve it out just like how I have done before. Okay, so assuming that you have done this question, the answer to this common ratio should be negative 4. The way to get that is take the negative 2 and divide it by 3, and you should get a negative 4. Now, using the explicit formula will be the 11th term of the sequence. A sub 11 is equal to the very first term, which is 3, times negative 4 raised to the power of 11 minus 1, which would mean that it's 3 times negative 4. Oh, I'm sorry, did I make a mistake? I'm sorry, the R value here should be negative 5, and this should be a negative 5 here. But in the end, your answer should still turn out to be the same here for this one. This is negative 4 raised to the power of 10, so that would mean it's 3, 1, 4, 5, 7, 2, 8, but it should be a positive number in this case because the first term starts with a positive, and this will turn out to be a positive as well. So it's going to be 3.1 million. Sorry about this one. The common ratio should be negative 5. Okay, next question. Is the explicit formula by given the first and the ratio? This might be a lot easier to do. So to first find the explicit formula is that you have to write a sub n. If I ask you to find the explicit formula, I need you to write this down. So that would be 1 times negative 2 to the power of n minus 1. That's it. Just make sure you leave the n. The n has to be part of the explicit formula when you're asked to solve for the explicit formula. Next question is find the ace of 10, which means I'm just going to simply plug in 10 as 10 to the nth term. So negative 2 raised to the power of 9 times 1 should be negative 512. That should be the answer. Try this question and first find out for me what the explicit formula would be. Remember, explicit formula always has the nth term in it. Number 2, find the a sub 12 by using the formula. Okay, so the explicit formula here would be a sub n is equal to the very first term times the common ratio raised to the power of n minus 1, and that should be it. The next question, a sub 12, I'm going to simply plug in the 12 into the value of n, so 1 times 2 to the power of 12 minus 1. So that would be 1 times 2 to the power of 11, so I can just type in 2 to the 11th power into the calculator, get 2048 as your answer. Pretty simple, right? Final question for the day, and you'll get questions like this for your homework as well, so don't worry about that. And I'm going to give you an example as something like this to do, just for the sake of making sure you're able to do questions like this in advance. Okay, so in this particular case, using the explicit formula and the designated nth term, find the first term a sub 1. Then find the actual explicit formula of the following geometric sequence. So first of all, for these types of questions, our first job is to always solve for a sub 1, because that's what it's asking you to solve for. Find the first term a sub 1. Well, how do we do that? Well, you have to use the explicit formula a sub 3, which gives you negative 36, but that's also equal to the very first term times the common ratio raised to the power of n minus 1, which in this case is 3 minus 1, because we know the nth value here is a 3. Okay, now going to the question here, negative 36 is equal to a sub 1 times what's 6 to the power of 3 minus 1? Well, 3 minus 1 is 2, 6 to the square power is 36. Divide both sides by 36 like this, and a sub 1 will simply become negative 1. So now that I have solved for a sub 1, I got to do my second portion, which is finding the actual explicit formula. So the actual explicit formula would be a sub n. Remember, whenever I ask you to solve for the explicit formula, I need to make sure that the n is in there. So a sub n is equal to the very first term, negative 1, times 6 to the power of n minus 1. And that should be it for this particular question. I'm actually going to skip this and teach it to you guys on Thursday, which is going to be a little bit more complicated, but this is a good enough review for the quiz on Thursday. But if I give it to you like in this context, it will still not make that much of a difference. This will be the most challenging type of question of them all. But first, let's make sure that you know how to do this portion. All right, so now pause the video, take a look at this format, please, and try to see if you can come up with the explicit formula. First, find the a sub 1, and then find the explicit formula. Pause the video and let me know when you're done. Okay, so to find the a sub 1, you have to use the explicit formula as it designated to. A sub 6, which is equal to 64, is equal to a sub first term times common ratio to the power of n minus 1, which in this case, it will be a 6. So 64 is equal to a sub 1 times 2 to the 5th power, which turns out to be 64 is equal to a sub 1 times 32. Divide both sides by 32, and you should get a sub 1 to be 2. All of this is the work that I need you guys to demonstrate for me on your homework questions. Next, now using the a sub 1, you can just write down the explicit formula as such. A sub n is equal to the first term times the common ratio 2 raised to the power of n minus 1. And notice that if I do 6, 2 times 2 to the 6 minus 1, you should get 64, which matches with the description. That's a way to check your answer also, to make sure you did it right. Hope this video helps. I'm going to give you 4 questions to do on the homework. Make sure you get them done by 11:59 by today. You will have a quiz due for me by the end of this week on Friday by 12 p.m. Thursday, we'll go over more questions. You may start on the quiz starting from Thursday. Make sure you get it done by 12 o'clock by noon on Friday. Thank you, and take care of yourselves.